Hey there, podcast lovers. Looking for a fresh take on the world? Tune into Nikki's World, where we dive into everything hitting the headlines and chat about just what's on our minds. No filters, just real talk. Whether you're sipping your morning coffee or unwinding after a long day, Nikki's World is your go-to for genuine commentary on the real world. Subscribe now if you want to hear the real deal on what's going on. Join the conversation on Nikki's World, where every episode feels like catching up with an old friend. Don't miss out.
What's up, y'all? Let's do this. Oh, hi guys, welcome to Nikki's World. I'm Nikki, your host, and today, guys, who would have thought that AOL is still existing to this day? We're going to talk about that and so much more. But before we go any further, guys, if you guys love Nikki's World so much, seriously, y'all, can y'all please consider donating a cup of coffee for me? Because for the price of a cup of coffee at Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, and Cumberland Farms, guys, you guys help keep this podcast show alive. You guys help me curate more stories, more topics like this to talk about. I do accept Bitcoin donations. I am on Ko-fi, guys. If you guys want to support, sponsor, donate, and tip to Nikki's World, if you guys love Nikki's World so much, seriously, y'all, please hit that like, subscribe, please give me a review. Good, bad, and the ugly. Also, guys, I do have a bunch of affiliate links. First off is Minds.com. Minds.com is a Connecticut based social media platform. They are an awesome alternative to Facebook. So if you guys value your right to freedom of speech like I do, and you guys want to be able to speak freely without fear of censorship, well then, head on over to Minds.com. Also, guys, I do have an awesome, and I mean totally awesome, affiliate link with Byrna.com. Byrna.com is the less lethal self defense company, guys. They make their top of the line Byrna SD, Byrna LE, TCR, Mission 4, and their newest, guys, compact launcher, guys. So if you guys value your right to the Second Amendment, and you guys value your right to self-defense, but you guys want to do it in a less lethal manner, guys, well then head on over to my friends at Byrna.com. Also, guys, if you I have this awesome affiliate link with North Shore Medical Supply. North Shore Medical Supply makes their top of the line Megamax diaper, the Supreme pull-ups, and their Turner boosters, guys. If you know someone out there who needs to be put in adult diapers or who needs to wear pull-ups, okay? Well then, send them on over to my friends at North Shore Medical Supply, because at North Shore they'll make sure that they're diapered up and padded up as always. And before we get this show on the road, literally, guys, if you guys love this episode and any of my other episodes on Nikki's World, seriously, y'all, seriously, can y'all please consider sharing this across all the social media platforms that are out there today? Wait, man. Oh, wow, wow, wow. That was a fucking mouthful. And yes, guys, I am always diapered up as always. I'm always diapered up in my North Shore Megamax diaper with my Eterna boosters. And yes, I'm in my t-shirt today because it is hot and humid outside. And yes, it is disgusting out there as always. So, anyway, I'm diapered up. Let's get on with the show, shall we? Yesterday, guys, I want to talk about this. This came up yesterday on my social media feed, and I was shocked and blown away. I was like, the fucking thought AOL would still be alive and around and kicking these days. Yesterday on the news, and I'm going to read this article from you guys from the New York Post. AOL finally shutting down its dial up internet service, a relic of the early internet. Okay? I'll read you the first paragraph. The AOL dial up internet service of the World Wide Web's early days, known for its nostalgic beeps and chirps, is coming to an end. The company owned by Mark Warren led asset management giant Apollo Global will discontinue the seldom used service September 30th. AOL routinely evaluates its products and services and has decided to discontinue dial-up internet. This service will no longer be available on AOL plans, the web provider said on Friday. So, as many of y'all know, guys, as a Gen Xer growing up in the 1980s and the early internet days of the 1990s, AOL was the big thing back then. AOL was what got people hooked on the internet, got people hooked on like searching for stuff online or reading up the news online and all that. This was the early days of the internet. And if you were playing like an online game back then, dial-up was the slowest thing on earth. Tell you this much: dial-up internet was so slow that today people would be shocked if they knew how slow the internet was back then. Back then, if you wanted to download one song off the internet, it would take you hours. Now it takes you like a mere seconds, okay? But back then in the 1990s, about like 30 years ago, that was the standard back then. AOL, which stands for America Online, got people on the internet. And back then, AOL used to mass ship tons of CDs to everyone's household in America. Okay, it was like every week in the mail you would get like a shit ton of like what AOL CDs, and it was like, what are you gonna do with all this shit? You know, all people did was use it to basically get on the internet. And you had to do dial up back then because dial-up internet meant that you had to use a 56K modem attached to your computer, and you had to use the phone line to get online. So that was the early days of the internet, ladies and gentlemen. And back then, guys, the early days of the internet, everything was all about like searching online, building on your own website. I even had like what? I even had a tripod tripod website back then in the early '90s. I don't think it's still on anymore, but it's been long gone, you know. But back then, everybody had like what, an AOL account, email account, a Hotmail account, or Yahoo back then in the 1990s. But now, now everybody's what, on what, Gmail and some other like Proton Mail like that. But man, the '90s were wild back then. The '90s were like basically the wild wild west of the internet before wokeness killed the internet today. But back then, shit. If you didn't know what ASL meant, you were like you're like lost and lost and clueless. Back then, ASL meant for age, sex, and location. That means that you don't like to tell people who you are. You have to tell people how old you are, your sex, which meant your biological sex, not your like the made up sex that the left wants you to think, and then your location. Many times people put their full town and state, or many times they put just their state, which made it easy, which made it that people couldn't find you, which back then was pretty wild. I mean, let me see, I had the early days of the internet. I had like what, Hotmail. I had Yahoo Mail. Back then it was called Rocket Mail. You know what I mean? I had so many back then. It was like holy shit. But now today, AOL is discontinuing dial-up service on September 30, 2025, which is next month. So it's going to be like what? An end of an era, and the era of the early days of the internet is gonna die out. It's, I'm surprised it's still around, guys. I'm surprised. I'm like shocked. I was like this AOL dial up. Who the fuck is still using that shit? Yeah, that's what I was thinking when that news article hit. I was like, who the fuck is using dial to this day? That's all I want to know. Who the fuck is still using it? Now, today, everybody has like what? Wi Fi, broadband, and all that stuff, or now satellite internet through what? Elon Musk is Starlink? Yeah. But back then, 56K internet ruled the roost. 56K started the internet revolution in the 1990s. About around 2000s, that's when broadband became a thing. That's when broadband internet became the norm, became the standard around the house. But back then, the internet was wild. I mean, every time you turned on like AOL, it would say, "You got mail." That meant that, yeah, you got email accounts. And it was like the very first greeting of you getting an email. I was like, holy shit, man. I was like, holy shit. That was the dawn of the internet age, man. That was the dawn of the internet. A lot of people back then shopped online. Shopping online back then was a bit like holy shit. It was like a bit of the wild wild west back then. But now shopping became normal. I mean, pretty much it became the standard. Okay? I mean, back then the internet is not like the internet today. And I tell people, if you took people from this generation today, brought them back to the 1980s and the 1990s, they would not survive at all, ladies and gentlemen. They would not survive one bit. They would have a fucking freaking nuclear meltdown because people in the 90s and people in the 80s don't have a concept, don't have the clue what gender identities, sexual orientations, or in that what the pronoun bullshit back then. Back then in the 90s, we used to make fun of every other race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity shit back in the 90s, and no one had a hissy fit. No one had a temper tantrum. No one basically like canceled each other back then. Now if you make fun of someone because of their race, gender, sexual orientation and all that shit, they be calling for you to be deplatformed, canceled, and all this shit. Back in the 90s and all that, which is like 30 years ago, we got away with that shit. And I tell people there are some shit that we got away with in the 1990s, which is the early days of the internet, before anybody in 2025 ever knew. Back then, we got away with stuff that today you'd get canceled for. You would get like blocked, banned, kicked off of every social media platform, and canceled. Back then, it was like, who gives a flying fuck? Sometimes I tell people, I wish I could go back to the 1990s. I wish I could go back to the early days of the internet, which was far better, far superior, and which had like less stupidity and a lot of common sense. But today's internet and social media and all that shit, it's like you're walking on fucking damn eggshells and all that shit. You pretty much, guys. That's why I was like this. I was like, holy fuck, man. Yeah, man. I tell people this. The 1990s, we saw the dawn of the internet. We saw the dawn of social media. Because, like, what? Back then, Facebook was a college thing, and you had to have, like, what? A college email account, whether from a 2 year or 4 year college, just to get on Facebook. Back then, it was a college only thing. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that Facebook was basically for college students to get together and chit chat and all that shit. You know what I mean? That's what it was. But then sometime around the 2000s, they started opening it up for everyone. Yeah. Before Facebook, everybody had this thing called MySpace. Yeah, that's a shocker. MySpace was the predecessor to Facebook. Yeah, and everybody had MySpace. Everybody learned HTML, which was the the coded language in order to build a website. Everybody learned how to build websites from what, like GeoCities, Tripod. I built one like that. That's how I tell ladies and gentlemen, this is how I became good at blogging because I learned to build websites as far back as the mid 1990s. Yeah, that's how you see my blog on whatchamacallit, on WordPress. All that came from all the experiences I learned in the 90s. And downloading music, that was all from like the 90s. We learned that in the 90s and early 2000s. My generation, if we wanted to download music, we had a program called Napster. Napster back then, people were downloading music left and right. And if you were doing it at home, it'd take you about like the most 3 to 4 hours just to download one song because 56K can only take so much at a time. So it was pretty slow back then. But nowadays you have what? Amazon Prime Music, iTunes Music, where you could download music for what? Not a dollar? A 99 cents, a dollar right there? Or you download the whole like album for like what, $5? And boom, instantly on your what? iTunes? Tell you, man. Tell you, the internet was wild back then. And the internet was like crazy as hell. That's why it's like this. As someone who's a Gen Xer who was born in the late 70s but grew up in the 80s and 90s, man, we had it so much easier than today's generation. We had it so much fun that I tell you what, the music in the 80s and 90s is still better than the music today. And if anybody want to challenge me on that, I freaking double dare you to come on the show and challenge me. Because I will tell you this, man. The music was fresh. The music was cool. The music was real. Today's music is shit, trash, and garbage. Okay? The music in the 90s was real. Was like, holy shit. Yeah, it was real. But I tell people, man, the internet back then was like, wow. It was the wild, wild west. I could tell you this. I spent hours in the '90s, like chatting with people, on like the AOL chat rooms, and the chat rooms were basically like were so wild back then. Today's woke leftists would have a psychiatric meltdown in 10 seconds, or not even less than 10 seconds, about a half a second, because they wouldn't be able to last the online chat rooms of the 1990s. Yeah, they wouldn't be able to last. Every chat room was so cutthroat, brutal, and honest that you wouldn't even make it. You wouldn't even last a single day. The left wouldn't even last at all. They'd be like crying, having a hissy fit, a temper tantrum, and they'd be bawling in the corner back there, like trying to cry their balls out over what someone said is normal back then. Yeah, but I do tell people the internet was wild back then. 30 plus years ago, it was a wild time. And I tell people, I'm glad I lived to see it. I am glad that I lived to see the internet started in the 1990s. I'm glad that I lived to see how the internet got started. Because I'm going to tell you this, today's generation don't even have a fucking damn clue what a 56K modem looks like, how to set up a 56K modem internet. Yeah, they don't even have a freaking clue. The early days of the internet was like, holy cow. And I'll bet you, if you go back, if you go to sites like the Wayback Machine, go back to where the first web page ever is up, and the first White House web page, and look at it today, it'd be a fucking eye opener. It'd be a shocker, to say the least. It would be. Back then in the 90s, nobody put it. Nobody put a such thing as like pronouns in their bio. Nobody ever. Nobody. It was like the wild wild west. of the internet. It pretty much was. And back then, guys, AOL ruled the roost. AOL was like so much talked about that. I believe in the late '90s, in 2000s, they made a movie called "You Got Mail." Yeah, and it featured American Online on that. I dare people right now watch it. I dare y'all because I'm gonna tell you, it'd be an eye opener to see how people in the 1990s lived. And to the young generation today, be thankful for what you have. Be thankful for the kind of social media, the kind of internet, and the kind of culture that you have. Because people like me who grew up in the 1990s, we had a culture where we were all about being ourselves. We were all about like being ourselves, expressing our individuality, expressing who we are and what we are. Tell you, man, we set the foundation for what you see in 2025 right now. And a lot of people don't realize that, especially the younger generation don't realize. I tell people, if we were to create a fucking damn time machine, send you all back to what? Let me see. I'm gonna say the good times, like what, 1995, 95, 96, 97. Send you back to that time period and let you see what living culturally is like. I'm gonna tell you, there wasn't no iPhone. There wasn't no there wasn't no iPod back then. There was a what? There was like a Power Mac or a Newton pad back then. Yeah, yeah, and mind you guys, the Apple Newton pad was the impetus for the iPhone. And if anybody wants to doubt me on that, go look and see what the Newton pad was back in the '90s, and then look at the iPhones today. Wouldn't surprise you. Would not surprise you and shock you. Wouldn't. But I will tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. I will say this. The internet back then was wild. I remember like people fighting over the telephone line where people ultimately had to get a second phone line for the house because you had a phone line that was connected to the internet and then the other phone line was connected to the house. So basically the internet was a wild time. And yesterday hearing the news that AOL will end dial up internet service is like, wow, my era is really coming to an end. It has, man. It really has. Yeah, it really has, man. It's been so archaic. It's not even funny, man. I mean, I look at it, man. Have AOL been around for 34 years? It's like, wow. You know, it's like dial-up internet has become like the relic of the old days of like say what? Let me see. MSN chat, Yahoo chat. What's the other one, ladies and gentlemen? Skype, ICQ. Yeah, those were the good days. Those were the good days of the internet, man. I'm telling you, man. Those were the good old days of the internet. And now, ladies and gentlemen, they've faded into history books. And it's the stuff that Gen Xers will be able to tell this generation about for like eons and saying, Yeah, that was the early days of the internet, man. You people don't realize how easy you have because my generation built this shit for your generation to build on. Yeah, it pretty much, man. Pretty much. But, as I gotta say, AOL has basically revolutionized the internet and has connected a lot of people. And dial-up internet is now going to be laid to rest next month, and I hope next month we get to write their obituary on the dial-up internet. I hope we do, guys. I really, really do. Anyway, guys, I want to talk about this debate about like Trump legalizing and reclassifying marijuana. Read you this headline. Trump administration considers, and this is from Breitbart, guys. Trump administration considers reclassifying cannabis as a less dangerous drug. Okay, read you the headline from this. President Donald Trump confirmed on Monday that his administration will consider reclassifying cannabis as a less dangerous drug. The president revealed his consideration during a press conference in the White House briefing room. He said, we're looking at reclassification and we'll make a determination over the next, I would say, over the next few weeks, and that the determination hopefully will be the right one. And it's a very complicated subject, Trump said. Well, here's the thing. I think like this. Marijuana should be classed as a what? Alcohol and tobacco. Pretty much. It's not it's not dangerous. It's not like addictive. It's not gonna make people do stupid shit. All that stuff back then was because people didn't have the science back then. People didn't research it properly back then. Now, with the technology that we have today, and then we're finding out that marijuana has medicinal usage that we didn't know about in the 19 what like 50s, 60s, like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on. We didn't have that kind of technology back then. Nowadays, now with the technology that we have today, we're finding out that marijuana can be used to cure this and this and this. Or, for example, people with HIV and AIDS who have like what? Issues with trying to eat, marijuana could probably solve that and probably get them to eat normally and healthy. Yeah. So back then, ladies and gentlemen, people were like arrested for what? Just a bag of weed and thrown in what? Prison for like what? 6 months to 2 years for it? Which to me is like what? That's just a waste of space in prison. Yeah, that just was. Nowadays, guys, nowadays a lot of states have legalized marijuana, especially here in my state of Connecticut. They legalized it, regulated it, and taxed it. I think it's time the feds need to get on the same bandwagon and say, and I believe they should say like this: marijuana should now be a state issue. That means states will get the opportunity to regulate marijuana. That means if they want it and they want to legalize it for adults who are 21 and over, go ahead. Go right ahead. This is why I believe, and I've said this on social media, that marijuana should fall under the 10th Amendment, which means since marijuana is not a purview of the federal government, but the federal government tries to what? Regulate it, criminalize it, penalize it, does nothing. It does nothing. It just makes people more resentful of the government. So now a lot of states have started to decriminalize it and say, no, we our state, our land says it's not a crime. It's not a crime to possess and smoke marijuana. It's not. So we've decriminalized it almost overnight. All the prison inmates that were in prison for marijuana possession are long gone. Are gone. They're leaving prison. Yeah, and that makes more room for hardcore criminals like rapists and murderers and sex offenders. Yeah. So to me, the 10th Amendment should be used to say to the federal government, you have no say in the marijuana issue. You get the fuck out, federal government, and stay in your lane and let the states decide. If the states want to regulate, tax, and allow their state residents to consume marijuana, if they vote for it and legalize it and regulate it in their own state borders, I tell the feds to go kick rocks, go pound sand. This should become a state issue, and states should have the right to regulate marijuana. I know states that do, like what, like New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut, Colorado. Colorado regulated it and decriminalized it to the point now nobody gets arrested for possession of marijuana. Nobody gets arrested anymore. Everybody gets to what? Everybody gets to what? Smoke it legally. And if you're a legal adult, and if you're like what, a 21 and over an adult, yeah, you get to smoke it, eat it, eat it like a brownie, or eat it like, or drink it like a tea, legally. Yeah, but they still penalize anyone under 21 years and older. I mean, younger. They penalize them, but they 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 do go after minors and teenagers who still smoke it, and they still refer to the juvenile justice system. Okay, but this is why I go like this: for the adults, for the 21 and over adults, I would be like this: let's legalize it, let's regulate it like tobacco and alcohol. Use the same rules that we regulate and tax alcohol and tobacco. And I would use those same rules to apply to marijuana. Same thing I would do for what? Cannabis and what's that thing that they use to, like, hemp. Like hemp. I would do the same thing. I would allow farmers to grow hemp. But the only thing is, hemp has to be regulated. So, which means if you grow hemp, it has to be like in what? Greenhouse type farming, has to be locked up, secured, and they either have to have security system or hire security guards that guard the hemp farms. I would do the same thing with hemp. I would legalize it and regulate it. I would say like this: yeah, you can grow hemp, because the for some idiot to basically get the same high as marijuana, you'd have to smoke the entire field. You literally do. But hemp is great for what? Soap, t-shirts that I wear, or what? Skirts, or what? Hemp bottles. Hemp is biodegradable. Hemp oil for ailments. Hemp rope for people who like to do shibari like me. I tell people, man, if we can regulate hemp hemp and basically allow farmers to grow hemp, but it has to be regulated and has to follow a certain set of regulations, I'd be for it. And taxes, I'd allow states to collect taxes on marijuana right there. And if you tax it, the money shouldn't go to the feds. It should go to the state coffers. And it should stay in the state, like in the states and in the towns. That's where the money should be spent on. But yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And I think like this. I think like this. If we get the feds to legalize it at the federal level, states would jump on board. States would be able to say like this, man, look how much tax money am I going to collect from marijuana sales. I got enough for I can get enough of that tax money to what? I got that bridge that always needs a repair job. I got that like stretch of highway that needs new paving. Yeah, if that happens, I'm all for it. I really am. But that's why it's like this. I hope Trump reclassifies marijuana as a less dangerous and basically reclassifies it on the same level as tobacco and alcohol. If he can do that, he cements his legacy in this country for the rest of his for eternity. He cements his legacy right then and there. Really does, guys. Really, really does. Anyway, guys, I want to talk about this article, and this showed up on the Federalist today. I'm going to read you the headline: Petitioner asks SCOTUS to overturn its ill-fated Obergefell decision. Here's the first paragraph. A Christian petitioner has asked the Supreme Court to consider a case that would potentially overturn this disastrous 2015 ruling on the so-called gay marriage. Okay. Here's the second paragraph. Throughout the past few days, numerous outlets have published articles on the petition recently filed with the High Court by former Rowan County, Kentucky clerk Kim Davis. According to Liberty Counsel, a Christian organization representing Davis, the former clerk was previously jailed, sued, and held personally liable post Obergefell versus Hodge for her sincerely held beliefs on marriage. Here's the problem with this. Kim Davis in Rowan, Kentucky, she doesn't have a snowball's hell and chance of getting that case overturned. That the group Liberty Counsel should have just said to her, "Sorry, there's no way you're gonna overturn gay marriage, because here's the problem: the courts are evenly split. Okay, you have like what? You have like basically the like people on the conservative side and the liberal side. Okay, like Clarence Thomas, like Roberts, Alito, like Kavanaugh. You know what I mean? Amy Coney Barrett. Yeah. And then you have Sotomayor and all that. There is no way she's going to win that case. And there is no way she's going to be able to overturn gay marriage. It's practically a foregone conclusion. And the fact that she wants to impose her Christian beliefs, saying, "Oh, she has a right to express her Christian beliefs." I'm gonna say like this: she may open a Pandora's box that she's going to regret later in life. And if she's saying that, oh, I don't want gay marriage because I'm a Christian, well, does that mean do Muslims get to say, I don't want I don't want Christians in my neighborhood? So do are they going to be allowed to say, I want to throw Christians out of my neighborhood? Or or Jews are going to be able to say, I don't want either in my neighborhood? Telling you, telling you, she just opened the Pandora's box. And the Pandora's box is that once she tries to once she tries to overturn gay marriage, what else are you going to overturn? Interracial marriage? Are you going to overturn like being able to segregate based on race, sex, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, ethnicity? The case should be thrown out the window. They, it shouldn't be heard. They should have just said like this. Here, you wanted us to hear it? Here, there you go. Woof, thrown right out the window. Because she's got no chance. Even Grok has said she has less than 5% chance of winning the case. The justices won't overturn it. Because Robert's courts is so divided. It's like what? Many times cases are like 5-4. Yeah. So to me, it's a waste of time. It is. And the fact that you have like many times the courts are 6-3 majority, and those are like what? Justice Roberts, Thomas, Alito. Yeah. And then you have Kagan, Sotomayor, who are on the liberal side. Nah. Nah. You get in order for them to take up that case for the justices on the U.S. Supreme Court have to agree to it. Okay, you have like what Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Barrett, like Roberts, Kagan, Sotomayor. Yeah. So I don't think she's going to be able to convince four of those justices to hear the case. To me, they're just gonna say, no, we're not interested in it. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. And then you're just gonna tell her, see you later. Have a nice day. Have a good time with your wife, and that's it. The fact of the matter is, guys, she wants to overturn gay marriage. That's not going to happen anytime soon. That is never going to happen. And in fact, it has been the norm since 2015. Okay? To overturn a 10-year-old case, she's just reaching for it. She is just basically grasping at straws, trying to clutch her pearls, trying to justify being able to discriminate. That's what she's trying to do. To me, she should just fade away, disappear, and just go live her damn life. It's like many times I tell people like this. I don't care what religion you espouse or you believe. That's great. But don't shove it in front of other people's faces. It's like, look, I have friends who are what? Christian, Jewish, Muslim. I I I don't shove my Buddhist religion onto them, and they don't do the same. I just think King Davis wants to be able to shove her religious beliefs onto everyone else. And I think the courts should just say, No, thank you. Have a nice day. We'll see you in your next life, and we hope you enjoy the time that you have. Pretty much. But the fact that she wants the courts to hear it, I wouldn't even entertain it one bit. I would just chuck the case right out the window into the trash can or into the shredder and say, "No, we're not going to hear it. We're not going to entertain it. We're not going to look into it." If she wants the hissy fit over the fact that she can't impose her Christian beliefs, she could go pound sand for all I fucking care. Because I'm gonna just say like this: if you think that you want the courts to let you impose your religious beliefs on others, well then, what's stopping the Muslims, the Jewish, the Hindus, and the Buddhists from doing the same thing? What's stopping? Because the courts are just going to say, if we allow one, then we're going to have to allow all. So, Kim, do you think it's okay for Muslims to want to impose Sharia law, but you want to ban gay marriage? But you want to be able to say, hey, I don't believe in gay marriage should be banned. I think for one, Kim Davis needs to just like put up, shut up, and just get on with her life. It's that simple. It is. But she's basically trying to like what? Overturn a decision that was set in stone in 2015. And since then, it has become the norm in this country. It has. It has. And to me, I'm just gonna say like this. Kim Davis just needs to just fade away and basically just disappear from society because she's doing is making her look like an idiot. It is. It pretty much is. Wow. Yeah, that was a good show for y'all. That was really, really an awesome show for y'all. It really is. But I thank you guys for listening to Nikki's World. I'm Nikki, your host. I will see y'all soon. Bye for now. You just listened to an episode of Nikki's World. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all soon. Bye for now.